Alright, so I'm Sam. Some of you know me as Scenes on the Gaming Stack Exchange. And Rob sent me this replay, and he asked me for some advice on his play. Specifically, he said he was having a hard time fielding an army that could really compete with his opponent. And I'm going to go over this. I'm going to sort of point out a couple of the mistakes he's making, a couple of things he's doing very well, and things that you could do better in your own gameplay. So you notice he's rallying all his workers just this one mineral patch. A better idea is to rally them to empty ones, to new mineral patches. That way you don't have collision. That actually doesn't make a huge difference, so don't worry a ton about that. You will notice he's building Overlord after building 9 of these, there's the 9th, drones. This is actually best way to do it. I highly recommend Overlord on 9. You notice he also scouted with his 9th drone, which is just getting around here. It's a little early. Normally I recommend a scout around 10, maybe 12, 13 if you can spare it. But Scrap Station, this map, has a very long distance. Just look at how far this distance is. So it kind of makes sense for him to go a little early. You notice he gets here, there's a gateway, there's an assimilator up. Not a ton of information that he can sort of glean from this. So maybe a little bit of a later scout next time would be helpful. You notice 11 probes here, the 12th being in his base, scout for his opponent. He's also building his probes, drones. I think he's up to, this will be the 14th. So this is fairly standard. A lot of Zerg players like to get a spawning pool on 13, 14, 15. All very normal. And you'll see here it is, spawning pool on 14. Fine choice. Before deciding a strategy, it's often nice to see what your opponent will build next. So one gateway, okay, that doesn't really say a lot. But a gateway and maybe a cybernetics core or something would say something else. He'll put the drone into an extractor here. This is really a safety technique if you're getting chased by a zealot or something. It's nice and you can always cancel later when it gets close to done. So here's the first thing I critique. Actually, let's back up a second so I can show this to you better. Alright, so he builds his extractor here on 14 again. You notice he has a ton of minerals. Extractor, 25 minerals. No reason to wait this long to get it. Likewise, you see all these larvae right here? You have almost 300 minerals here. In fact, he's going to send this guy to build an expansion. By the time this guy builds the expansion, he's going to have 400 minerals. There's no reason these larvae couldn't be more drones. Keeping your larva count down is almost as important as keeping your minerals down, certainly for a Zerg player. The other thing is, you'll notice he gets this extractor after getting the spawning pool. A lot of players will get the extractor right before getting the spawning pool, and they do this because if you get it right before you get your spawning pool and then immediately put 3 drones in it, you will actually have 100 Vespian gas as soon as the spawning pool finishes and can immediately get that Zergling speed. That's really nice if you want to be aggressive with early Zerglings. It's a good strategy. I highly recommend it. But that doesn't mean it's the only strategy. However, we'll see that Robb doesn't really have a strategy for this extractor. In fact, he's going to get it. He's not even going to really use it. So this is a little anomalous. I'd like to see him do something more with it. I'd like to see him spend some of these larvae to become drones. You'll notice he sends his 2nd Overlord right here. This is often a good idea to watch out for things like cannons in the expo or any sort of strange proxy barracks gateway play. So this is actually a good idea, but once you get this hatchery up and running, better place for this Overlord is maybe over here, where you can watch out for these destructible locks. Down here, watch the Zelnaga tower. Maybe in here, make sure he doesn't try and steal the gold or something. And you'll see this goes up. He has 100 minerals. If he had spent 2 of these to be drones, he still would have been able to afford this expansion and this extractor. There's no real reason that these larvae should just be sitting around. They should really be drones by now. And you notice he only has 12 drones. 11 mining, because his 12th is over here in his opponent's base scouting. So there's really no reason he shouldn't have more drones. He just doesn't have enough at all. You'll notice this extractor goes up, no drones go into it. It's not really doing much. The key thing about this extractor going up early is that all this time it's sitting there doing nothing. Time that drone that built the extractor could have been mining more minerals. You'll see he starts to get some zerglings in here. Another overlord. You know, the time on these zerglings probably a little early. You could probably wait, especially given how long this map is. Maybe just build one to do some scouting, one being two. But really, more drones. And again, larva, tons of mineral, and we'll actually see a couple of drones come up here finally. Another thing is these zerglings are here in this defensive position. Better places to put these zerglings right over here, so you can watch when your opponent comes into this little gap. Maybe down, have them run by down here. Look out for any sort of proxy play. Again, down here looking for proxies. Over here maybe, up here, over here. Maybe here to watch for some proxy. Maybe a proxy Stargate or a Dark Templar Shrine right in here. Very scary if you don't see them coming. So really just sending these zerglings to look around. Maybe just put one at the bottom of this ramp to sort of scout in and out of this base. You notice he has turned that drone to extractor again to avoid damage by Zealot. I'd like to see him cancel this, maybe have the drone do one last pass through, see this gateway after the Cybernetics core. This would tell him rather firmly that the guy is going for some sort of 3-gate, 4-gate timing push. But yeah, just keep a Zergling right here, maybe a Zergling over here, you know, just some scouting Zerglings to keep an eye on things. Likewise, this Overlord, much better served right here, watching the destructible rocks, over here, maybe just over here so that his opponent can't hide anything behind this curtain. Down here, over here, a million better places. So there's a lot of scouting things he could do better here so far. Also, I'd love to see more of this larva as drones. He did produce a couple here. You notice he's maynarding these 3 drones here. So he's got 3 plus another 10 up here. So he's got 13 drones total. The reason you want to get an expo is because above 16 drones, your drones are actually being less efficient at mining than they would below 16. As a result, an expansion increases the effectiveness of the drones. This is why you transfer them over to your new expansion. He doesn't have that many drones. He's only got 13 here. So there's no reason they couldn't all be on these minerals. There's really no reason to transfer them. In fact, this expansion is not really doing anything for him at all. It's not producing extra minerals. The larvae it produces are inferior to just having a queen, which for half the price produces 150% of the larva. There's really no reason for this expansion right now. It's certainly not tying into his overall strategy. He's not building the number of drones he needs to really support it. He's just kind of building it to build it. And I think that's sort of thematic here. What Robb has done is he's sort of meshed together a couple strategies. There's a strategy, early spawning pool, early expansion. And then there's a strategy, you get an early gas and then get early speedling. And he's just kind of meshing all these strategies together. And he doesn't really realize that most people use these strategies independently of one another. In fact, they're usually mutually exclusive. And it's sort of hurting him. And you notice the Zealot killed off that extractor, so the drone never came down here, never was able to find out that, in fact, yes, this is going to be a 3-year. Actually, I think it is a 4-gate timing push. More Zerglings going up. Spine crawlers. These are really, really early spine crawlers. There's no reason for spine crawlers this early. If we look at his opponent's base, see he's just getting a second warp gate up, putting 2 more down. Really too early. And if that drone had come through here, he would have seen that and he would have known. Really don't have to build them this early. You could wait a lot longer. Notice he's also starting to get gas, finally. But he doesn't have enough gas for this metabolic boost yet, or a layer. He's getting a queen again, finally, but these are late. Late gas, late queen. And it's largely because he tried to do too many things at once and just didn't have the money to do it. And his opponent, very standard 4-gate build, has a nice number of probes in here. Just look at all these probes. There are 16 probes in here working hard. I think the 17th is over here, right? Meanwhile, handful of Zerglings, not enough drones, a late queen. There's a number of things that are just sort of odd here. You notice he does inject and then send the queen to his expo. A lot of people will inject and then build a second queen, because the build time on the queen, 50 seconds, injection time, 40 seconds. So if you do that, the queen will finish right after the injection finishes, and you'll be able to get your next injection in here. It's very nice, especially if you're going to send this queen away. But again, he didn't have an early queen. He can't afford another queen now because he just doesn't have the mineral production. He's still short on all these larvae, just standing around doing nothing. 6 larvae that just could be going to something. Meanwhile, he's building more Zerglings. His economy is already poor, and he's building more units and getting that Zergling speed, which is actually very useful. Now, he didn't have a Zergling watching out here, so he wasn't able to stop this or scout that these early Zealots are going to come in. And he does have a Zergling here, so he'll see this. But if this had been a 2-gate timing push, which would have meant there would have been 5 Zealots here, he wouldn't have seen that many Zealots until they got down to this tower. And that's sort of a problem, because he doesn't have enough Zerglings right now. He doesn't have the economy to throw out more Zerglings. So he really needs that more advanced notice. He really needs to have a Zergling down in here. And also to scout the map a little, watch out for any sort of weird proxy play. If we look at the income again, his opponent has much better income than his, more harvesters, and it's just really showing. Another weird thing is he built these 2 spine crawlers down here. Normally your attack is going to come through here, destructible rocks. These spine crawlers aren't actually going to do a lot in this position. Would have liked to see them over here maybe over here protecting the main, maybe spread some creep in here, put them in here so you could protect both. That all would have been good choices. But again, doesn't really have a plan, just kind of building spine crawlers to build them. Spine crawlers are good, I'm going to build some of those. And there's no real overarching plan of what he plans to do with them. Notice he's also finally increasing his drone production. Meanwhile, Red, who's had great drone production this entire time, is starting to throw down his army. And he's just starting to build up an army. And this is the real difference